friends, welcome to the Purple Zone, where public policy, practice, and people meet. Because policy isn't abstract, it's personal. So let's talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Purple Zone. I'm very excited today because I have my friend Matt sitting at the table with me. Welcome, Matt.
God bless you. Hello, Alexis.
And what's fun about today is that if people are watching on YouTube, they will see that Godzilla is behind you, because I thought it would be fun to like switch it up today.
Switch it up.
Yeah.
You know what we didn't switch up?
What?
You still did not take my offer for tea. But that's on you, because it's Halloween and this is wonderful cinnamon tea and you're missing out.
I am missing out.
You know those brooms that you can get at Trader Joe's, like the little witch style cinnamon brooms? It's like if you made that into a beverage, that's what I'm drinking right now.
That sounds really good. I'm just like
I know. You
I'm
can't
not,
have any.
I'm not thirsty. I'm not feeling it quite yet.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So I had this idea for a conversation today, and I've really been looking forward to it. So much so that when I asked you, I forgot all about it. And then
That's true.
yeah. And then
That's
you
true.
were like, hey, Alexis, didn't you invite me on your show? And I was like, oh, Matt wants to come on my show again. And you also wanted to be helpful to Alexis.
I did.
Yes.
And I did. So I added a 5th episode of the day. And here we squeaked this one in. Yeah. But I like the premise.
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned from you on a regular basis is that you very well may be the most informed Idahoan. That's quite possibly true, because in such a rounded way, in that you are talking to so many different people about what's going on in Idaho, what's happening in Idaho. And one of the things that I realized through our conversations is I don't know that much about city government. I'm like, oh, I don't know that much about city government, which is like, great. It's good to hear things and then say, I don't know very much about that, and I want to find out about it. And so I thought, you know what? You have been interviewing so many candidates for city council positions in the Treasure Valley. And I thought, what a great opportunity to ask someone who's interacted with all these people about city government.
Can I tell you something really fast?
Yeah.
Exactly to this end. The gentleman that was leaving here as you were coming in, Jason Van Gilder. Jason Van Gilder is the director of public works for Middleton. Middleton is getting a new wastewater treatment plant. Now, people have lost their mind over this because, by the way, the full price tag for this, 2 phases, full price tag is going to be over $100 million. It's going to be like $120 million. Milton only has like 13,000 people. This is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. And people were like, this is ridiculous. Growth should be paying for growth. We should not have to pay. The existing residents or longtime residents should absolutely not have to pay for like this new, wastewater treatment plant, all of these things. It has nothing to do with that. He walked me through everything. You want to know why they got it? They have to get a new municipal water treatment plant to drive their phosphate levels of the end product that gets pumped back into the Boise River down from 5 parts per million to 0.1 parts per million, 1/50th of existing requirements. Okay. That was determined in 2015 before the current boom of residents in Middleton, and has nothing to do with actual capacity. It is just phosphate. Now, one other more complicated thing is it's like, wait, why are they doing this? And the actual answer is because agriculture fertilizers increase phosphate levels with runoff in the Boise watershed. And so instead of squeezing them harder to reduce the fertilizer inputs that would reduce agricultural outputs, they're squeezing the municipalities to be like, we need to offset this by making you decrease the phosphates you put into the water. But how this relates to you, because a lot of people are running off like, we should stop this municipal plant. We should make growth pay for growth. We should do it. It has nothing to do with this. It doesn't matter who you get in. They can't change this because this is determined by the state of Idaho. Idaho Department of Environmental Quality changed this regulation in 2015. No one running can do anything about it. And if they tried to just refuse, it would cost Middleton between $6 and $8 million a year in fines until the county essentially just would take over the city and fix the plant anyway. So there are these issues.
Yeah.
That it just took me like 3 minutes to explain it to you, that people see on the exterior and think, I know, I will run and tell everybody that I'm going to stop this thing they don't like. They can't do anything about it. It's a lie.
Yeah.
That happened right before you got here. This is real.
Oh
It's all real.
It's happening in real time. Well, one of the things that I wanted to actually like start with, just to kind of like set the stage,
I thought I just set the stage. I thought I did a great job.
It's
okay. Keep going.
You did set the stage really well with a story that really ties into why we're having this conversation. So thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Matt.
Keep going.
So when I lived in Lewiston with my family, at that time, Lewiston had a council manager type of a city structure.
Oh, interesting.
And I remember being there for a while and I was like, why aren't we voting for a mayor? Like, I don't get this. And so someone explained it to me and I was like, okay. And then, here we moved down to Eagle and we're
standard mayor,
mayor, and like also voting for the city council people. So to kind of start just in terms of like United States models, when it comes to city council mayor structures, almost every town, at least this is what the internet told me.
No, the chatty G.
Well, I checked lots of different places.
Okay.
So checking. Most towns in Idaho have a council mayor type of city government, meaning that members of the community vote in city council members and members of the community vote in the mayor. But in a council manager type of scenario, city members vote in the council.
And then they have a soft mayor. And that rotates through?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Then the council appoints the mayor within the council members. Generally,
so if you have 5 members, it's rotating through who gets appointed as the mayor from the council?
Yeah, that's
gotcha.
Yeah. And but one of the things that I think, and it might look listen, I haven't like dug into this that much, but
that's how my old my old town was.
Yeah. And by rotating, I don't know how much, air quotes rotating they're doing, in terms of choosing. But one thing that I thought was interesting was Lewiston moved away from this type of a city setup a couple years ago to a council mayor type of system. And then the only 2 cities that have the council manager one, in terms of like, me checking the internet to several times, is McCall
interesting.
and Twin Falls.
Gotcha.
And so, I did find that in Ketchum, and I feel like this is in 2025, but I could be wrong, and I'm always trying to like preface myself with, and I could be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong, whatever. Is that, Ketchum, it appears that Ketchum is trying to transition to a council manager. And when I was like looking at their webpage in terms of like how they were describing it, it was stated that the council manager model is the most common model in the United States, and that the council mayor is the second most common model. But in Idaho, the council mayor is the most common model for city government.
Interesting. So in the Treasure Valley, I think it's the council mayor, right? Like we don't have any soft, because we have people running for mayoral elections and say like Nampa and Caldwell, Star and Eagle. We don't have that right now because we're in off years, as well as Boise. Boise's not doing it, but Garden City is also doing a mayoral election.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't mess around with CUNA. Sorry, CUNA. And everybody in Meridian ran unopposed. So I was like, I don't have time.
No, you don't get to come in here.
Right.
We're not having a conversation. So, and then to your
God,
point,
this tea is so good. I just want your
Mm.
listeners to understand how delicious it is.
It's so good. So one of the things that is, and that you noted in your story with Middleton is that like, so I went through and I was like, okay, well, what's really the difference between city, council and state, city, county and state, in terms of like what people are actually doing. So in terms of city, some of the examples that were given were zoning, local ordinances, and utilities.
Gotcha.
Whereas on the county level, they're talking about property taxes, courts, elections, and sheriffs. And then on the state, that's the roads, education, health and welfare, and state laws. What's interesting is that it talks about how the legislature is the one that determines the laws about what these entities, what these government, like local government entities can and cannot do. So for example, education on the state level, the state establishes the laws in terms of like bonds or levies,
Sure.
and it's the local school district that carries those out.
Right.
So
So they establish the legal and a framework, and then it's just executed on a local level.
Yes.
Got it.
So to your point, kind of like when you were talking about that Middleton example, the city council members are not going to be able to determine
You're not changing anything.
No, you're not. And it was a state agency that determined how much needed to be, in like that could be in the water.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of this stuff because like what I have learned from you is really interesting. And I just like was kind of curious, like what's something that you have picked up along the way in terms of your interviews that maybe is a misconception about what a city council can do versus what they cannot do? I know you gave one example, but
well, they're classic issue within the Treasure Valley, and I think in a lot of areas of Idaho, traffic. Okay, traffic is a pain point for a lot of people. And there are a lot of pain points in general that people can be like, yes, I don't like this, and like this stinks, and you have no control over it. For instance, here's one, harken back to an interview I did in the beginning of 24. Somebody was running for county commissioner, and they're like, I'm going to crack down on the illegal immigrants in the county. And it's like, oh, okay. Now, mind you, I was uneducated on the nuances at this point, but it was like, you're not going to do that, because here's the problem. This person was like, I'm going to get the local sheriff to like, start, doing more stuff. And it's like, okay, that sounds fine. But the problem is obviously the local sheriff, to deport somebody, one, you have to have information around who's legally here or not. The county sheriffs don't have that role of information. They don't have that database. Now they can work with federal agents or federal departments, whatever they might be. That's fine, but they don't have that information by themselves. Even if they get the information, say they arrest somebody and this individual, Brian gets arrested. He's from Germany and he's here illegally. Like he overstayed a student visa or whatever it might be. It doesn't matter. He's here illegally. And they're like, okay, and you broke the law. They get a hold of ICE and they're like, hey, we got this guy, Brian from Germany, and this is bad. Like, can you come get him? If ICE says no, the county sheriff cannot do anything. The county sheriff can make sure that that justice is served for whatever crime this person may have committed outside of being here illegally. But once that concludes, the county sheriff cannot do anything. So there was this articulation from this candidate. It was like, I'm going to crack down on this broad concern that we hear nationally, very much like illegal immigration. Totally fine. I don't have a position on it. But that's not really the role of localized people. So when you see things in city manner, right? Like, oh, we're going to fix, somebody was saying, some person running for city council was like, we're going to put in, temporary roundabouts till we get this traffic fix. It's like a Gaga pit? Like, what's a temporary roundabout? Like, how are you going to change the physical structure of the sidewalk and asphalt and like plant a tree in the middle of this road and temporarily, right? So you have people that come up with these ideas like, we're going to do X and I'm going to alleviate this pain point. But in reality, in Ada County, we have Ada County Highway District, and that deals with all the roads within the cities, except for a couple notable ones in Boise. There are 2 blocks on 8th Street where a lot of restaurants are, and that's foot traffic. Boise deals with those. Then you have Ada County ITD, Idaho Transportation Department. They deal with like Highway 84, Highway 55, Highway 54 or 44, Highway 16. You can't do anything about those, right? So if somebody's like, we're going to change up this highway, it's like, you're not going to do any of that. You also have more localized problems. Like there's one area where people are frustrated with comprehensive plans. They're like, we've changed the comprehensive plan here so many times, it's ridiculous. It's really a problem. Now, again, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But what you come to find out if you dig in is pretty much everybody, all the municipalities in the area are changing their comprehensive plan because other agencies are changing their plans. So if ITD and Idaho Transportation Department and then say Ada County Highway District both change plans, you may have to change your comprehensive plan, not because you did anything wrong or the city council is just trying to justify their existence, but because now the comprehensive plan as it was like, oh my God, dude, they're putting a byway in. okay, here we go. Like if they put a byway in here, what does that mean for all of these other things? Or if another city annexes in something that you thought was in your path of progress, you're like, oh, okay, this is no longer a commercial corridor. That's going to be residential, which means we got to, okay, well, if it's not going to be commercial, we need to downgrade the size of, what we're planning for over here, or, so you have a lot of these things that are pain points or topics of conversation that the city council really can't do anything about. Another is growth, right? Because we were talking about a product of growth, right? Traffic congestion. Another is growth. Okay, now look, here's the thing. We believe in property rights in the state of Idaho. We also have things that it can be considered like submarine plat agreements. Okay, now submarine means go away and they pop back up. Okay, because the issue is in Middleton, for instance, you have plat agreements that were approved before the teens, like 2008, 2009, had no sunset on them, no revision, no trigger warning where it was like, okay, if this changes hands, so like somebody got it approved and then they sold it to developer X because now it's valuable, then it's like there's no trigger thing where it's like, no, you got to come back to city council and get it approved. There's none of that. So it got stamped in 2009. And now they're getting developed. That's a pain point that the community looks at. They're like, we need to stop this growth. We need to stop this right now. And you have city council, not necessarily Middleton, but you have city council people saying, I'm going to stop this growth. I'm going to do this. Vote for me and I'm going to stop it. And the problem is like, okay, how? They're like, it's an emergency. We're going to put an emergency moratorium in place. Now, you can do an emergency moratorium. First off, it's only 6 months. So it's like, all right, you're going to tell everybody to put down the nail guns for 6 months. What's going to happen then? And you have to have something that is a justifiable emergency that you can address, like a broken sewer main. They're like, hey, whoa, everybody stop. We have a break here. We're going to take this 6-month emergency, address this. But just saying like, we need to just slow it down. That's not an emergency. That wouldn't work, right? Because the developers could take you to court. Or they'd be like, dude, you can't just stop arbitrarily.
Yeah.
So growth is one thing that is extremely hard for a council or a mayor to actually put meaningful brakes on. You can change zoning, you can change densities, you can require, have a more strict requirement if people want to change zoning types or something. That's fine. Design and review, that's fine, but you're not going to stop growth. You're also not going to really like stop traffic. So when people talk about that, it's like, that's not something you're going to be able to address. I'm sorry. Those are just two that have really popped up.
So good. So like, while you were talking, a couple of things I was thinking about. One,
I thought you were going to say you blacked out. I was like, wouldn't be the first time.
Someone listening to Matt just like, ugh.
They're like, my head.
One, I read somewhere that the Ada County Highway District is unique in Idaho, is the only highway district in Idaho. I read that. I don't know that that's true or not, but I read it.
I don't believe that's accurate. Now, I could be entirely wrong, but
where is there another county highway district? Do you know of one? I'm just being genuine. Like,
things outside of cities still have roads.
Yeah.
Okay. So for instance, if you go into Canyon County, if you're in between Nampa and Caldwell, there's still a road there. And if it's not an ITD road, I think you have a Canyon County Highway District.
Well, what is interesting?
I could be 100% wrong.
One of the things that's interesting though to me is that I've never heard about any of them except ACHD.
Well, here's something unique.
Yeah.
Middleton Public Works, Jason, who just left, he deals with the roads within Middleton. So Canyon County is distinct from ACHD in that all the roads in like say Eagle, that's ACHD. Yeah. But the roads in Middleton, that's Middleton.
That's what I'm saying.
So we have a highway district here, but that's not to say that there's not a governing body within the county.
Sure.
But you also have layered on top of that, okay, yeah, that everywhere outside of the actual municipal boundaries, there's some agency or entity that's dealing with those roads. But inside, they're also given, there's an added layer of bureaucracy where it's like, okay, but now it transitions into Caldwell's problem or Nampa's problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it might be unique in that the highway district here deals with roads inside cities.
Yes.
That might be the unique aspect.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there are other highway districts because there was a law recently passed in the last legislative session regarding that if you're going to do a highway district improvement, the primary benefit needs to be going to drivers, which is wild because you have things like sidewalks in front of schools that a highway district might be in charge of that need to be redone, but the primary beneficiary would not be a motorized vehicle. And so because of that law, they're like, wait a minute, man, there's this huge crack or there's this huge offset, and I'm not going to redo the road because I need to fix this sidewalk. And then the question becomes of funding, and like if you have funding or grants or something of that nature, can you get them repaired? Then you start engaging in like busing systems because you can get grants to improve sidewalks for buses. Like it's a whole big train wreck.
Yeah. So one of the other things that came to my mind when you were talking about, like people run, and you and I mean, like, I think we all see this on a regular basis where people come and they say, I'm going to fix this thing.
Yes.
And you're going, you don't have the power. You don't have the authority to fix that thing. Like,
pick up a book.
Yeah, you can't. And so I was actually talking to a lawmaker who met who actually served on like planning and zoning with my father-in-law down in another part of Idaho. And he was saying, like, my father-in-law worked in ag. And this lawmaker indicated that he was so glad that my father-in-law was on planning and zoning, because these people who understand like and live planning and zoning and understand all the rules and intricacies and like why things are the way that they are either one, becoming few and far between, or they are not they're not participating, or they're just getting older, and we don't have enough people in our generation that are aware of how these things work.
Right.
And so that was like, actually, I mean, it's one thing that I think about sometimes is like, why is it, and I mean, I have plenty of answers for this, but why is it that we don't have like the people who are truly knowledgeable about this stuff, like participating in planning and zoning, or participating in some type of other like committee or council for the benefit of like the city or the county?
Do you want me to give my perspective on that?
Totally.
I think a couple of reasons. One, governance in Idaho in particular, and the positions that came with governance, used to be of a pragmatic nature. Governance in Idaho now has kind of been removed from the power of the positions that come along with that. And people want those positions for reasons outside of pragmatic governance, right? Here's one for you. Integration of urban and ag lands, okay? There is a real problem in especially developing areas, say Canyon County, where you might have an ag operation that has to engage in typical standard ag behaviors, like, I don't know, baling hay in the middle of the night. Because moisture, heat, all of these things, for a lot of reasons, you have to engage in best practices in certain types of ag in the middle of the night. And then you have a developer who purchases a plot of land right next to that ag operation, builds houses, and all of a sudden people are like, hey, it's 2 a.m. And the guy in the, baler's like, yeah, go back to bed. What are you doing up? And they get in this huge wrangle, and all of the residents are like calling 911 at 2 a.m. because the hay baler's out there. And he's like, dude, I've been baling hay here since I was 6. What are you doing? Apparently, I don't know this because I've never done it, but apparently, like, if you have a buddy that you bail with through the middle of the night, you become like really good friends. It's like teenagers are like, whatever, man, what CD did you bring tonight? And you just like hang out with your buddy, and you're like bailing until like 7 or 8 a.m. and then you go to bed. And it's like, I have a friend in cattle. He's like, yeah, man, he was my buddy. Like, we would bail all through the night. It's like, yeah, we got to know each other real well. It's like, could you imagine like sitting in this machine for like over the middle of the night? Anyway, so that's a classic conflict between development and new residents and established Idaho. What you would have in that case, or very commonly, is you would have representation for the agricultural kind of industry in a governance position where it's like, hang on, man, like, I need to be here because I need to explain to people what the industry is that they moved into. And, people, when they come in, I need to be able to talk to them. I need to have representation so that we can preserve our, traditional behaviors and industry and things of this nature, right? That was before. And that's when the governance and the position went hand in hand, because the position was designed for that, to preserve and maintain a practical, community cohesion and function, right? Now, the actual institutional knowledge and the position, these things are slightly misaligned because you have people moving in here There's somebody running in a municipality right now who's been here for like 6 months.
Yes.
And she used to be an elected official in a former state. And she is now here and she is running for city council here. So she's not running because she's like, listen, we got some problems. I got this pragmatic stuff. Like, I understand how these things go, like bailing through the middle of the night. Like, you guys, we got to have, appropriate ordinances and laws, blah, 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 blah. She's like, no, like, I'm conservative and, I want to get after it and like help and bring things. It's like, wait, do you even know that they bail through the middle of the night? She's like, bail what?
Oh my gosh.
No, I did like, I was like making up the conversation. But the point is, it's like, people want these positions for reasons other than pragmatic governance. They want the positions because it's become something else within our communities. It's become more of a cultural anxiety and like, we need to preserve like the conservative culture. It's like, okay, but what does that even mean here? Like, I'm not even against what you're saying, but like, what does that mean to you here?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, I think, one of the disconnects where it's like people want the positions outside of preserving and having a functional community.
That's a really good point. I like that.
It took a lot to get there, but like, I hope that example made sense.
No, it's really good. But also, in the rural communities in Idaho, I like my father-in-law, he's talked to me about how in his community out there, like he sits on the the water board and how like there were like these water boards were created. He was like describing this scenario setup, and now they're having a hard time filling some of these positions because, it was created, decades ago for this thing. And so that is, I would say, like, that's another struggle in some of these like local areas, or rural areas particularly, is just like trying to find people to fill these positions.
But this, I think it predominantly comes back to industry, right? You're having a hard time transmitting ag operations. Okay. Like, the land is valuable, but it's not valuable to grow things, either plant or animal. It's valuable to sell to somebody. Right. So you're having a hard time transmitting the land is so valuable that it's like, okay, let's just sell it off. Right. And you have people that like, it's like Mr. Beast screwed up everything, right? Because it used to be like 50 years ago, what people would see was immediately around them. Young people would see immediately around them. And that's not to say they wouldn't leave and then come back. And I've spoken with a lot of ag people that are like, yeah, man, I thought I wanted this. And like, I was hanging out with this guy, Joey Bingham, yesterday in Gooding. It was like 2 days ago. It was fantastic. I love hanging out with Joey Bingham, right? He's got a dairy. He grew up in Gooding. He grew up on a dairy and he was like, I'm out. I'm going to college. He became a respiratory therapist, had a respiratory therapy practice, was like doing really, really well. In Boise, he's like, dude, no. And he went through everything. He had the successful professional career here and he's like, going back to Gooding. Whoa. And so he goes back to Gooding and starts another dairy, right? So his grandfather was there, his dad was there, and now he's there. So we went to his spot. He's got this. It's very interesting. He has done this vertical integration, meaning he has the dairy cows. He has the dairy operation where they produce. Then he built the USDA certified processing plant. So the dairy goes from the cows that he's growing to the processing plant. And then he now has the point of sale. So he has a little corner shop. And you go in and it's like this awesome little like corner ice cream spot. And there was this woman coming out with, he sells milk there. She's got these 2 gigantic glass bottles of milk that came straight from, I think one was strawberry and one was like normal. And it's like, oh my God, like and the bottles are beautiful. Like he really got some high quality. Anyway, so he has this whole point of sale. So he's got like the production to the processing all the way to the sales. Yeah. But the point is you have fewer of those people, right? And more people are engaging in economic activity outside of the agricultural world, either because it pays more to just sell off the land and move on, or because what they're seeing 12 hours a day, every single day is Mr. Beast on TikTok. Like you have people that are engaging in different economic drivers. And so it's not as important for, it's like, hey, look, man, this is what's going to make you money and your kids money and your kids' kids money. We need to have representation on this water board or this canal company or whatever, because like, this is the only thing we got. I'm like, okay, Dad, like that sounds great. Like I'll do it. Now it's like, what? Like, no, I'm not. That smells over there. Like, I hate it's like, no, I'm just like on my phone doing like whatever. And like, I'm going into like insurance or something. Like,
Yeah.
so the young people are not filling the ag industry, which means they don't care about the representation on the water boards because they don't need the water to engage in their prosperity.
But I also think part of it too, though, is that we've now like reached a spot where like these younger people who could take over, mom and dad's farm would have to take it over. If mom and dad sold it, mom and dad would make a lot more money. Like the kid there's not enough capital for that kid to buy the thing either. So that's what I would say is the flip of, that is that like, even if people want to, it's really hard to step into that unless it's like given, right? Kind of take over the family business in that way.
Right. And if the land's worth $1.5 million as ag, but worth 10 as development, you're going to have to square with your parent giving you $8.5 million on leaving it on the table. And I don't know if the disparities are quite that great, but like say it's $1.5 million versus $2 million. Yeah. You're going to ask your parents to just give you $500,000. I mean, maybe you could, but like that's pretty bold, especially if you're more than one kid. Say you just 2 kids in the family. Okay, man, like I'll make you whole. I'll make up the other $250,000. Who's got $250 on top of buying the land in the first place? Yeah, these are problems.
So one of the things that I think, conversations that you and I have had in terms of like national, state, and local government. One is I have heard people say, they're like, I don't like big government. I don't like big government. And, something that I probably heard for decades, right? We've all heard that statement. But I was like attending a class once and a professor just shared that this statistic that people don't realize that local government is big government in terms of this is what we're interfacing with every single day. Right. Like it actually, when we think about utilities and roads and like my capacity, I sometimes think about how I'm driving down the road and this happened today. I was at a stoplight and the person in front of me had a lot of time to turn left on the blinking yellow light, right? The arrow going left had a lot of time. And I just sat there and I thought, okay, there's a lot of time and I'm just going to sit here and the light's going to turn red and then we're going to have to wait for a green arrow because when I say there was a lot of time, there was a lot of time for this driver to turn left. Anyways, one of the thoughts that I had was, it would be really easy for me just to go around them, and turn left. And the reason we don't do that, the reason I didn't do that was because we have rules that govern how we drive. And, maintaining all of these, we have this system in which we live and operate because that keeps us safe and whole and all the things. So I just find local government interesting when I think about it from that perspective and how our city council or our mayor, here in Eagle, I remember when they changed utility companies for garbage. That was a big deal. Yeah. And it was interesting to me because it reminded me that while Clinton, my husband, was pursuing his medical degree and we lived all over the United States, one of the places that we lived, garbage was a private system. You as an individual, as a homeowner or renter, had to figure out how you wanted your garbage taken out, and you didn't have to pay for a garbage service. You could every week or however often you wanted to drive it to the dump and put it there. Pay right there. Or you could pay for the private service that would come around and pick it up. Now, the private service, cost-wise, between what we were paying in New Hampshire versus what we pay here in Eagle, pretty similar. It wasn't it was a racket or anything. But very different.
I never thought about that. It's $15 minimum fee to dump at the Ada County landfill up in Siemens Gulch. And man, $60 a month if I did it every week. But if I did it once a month, I would just have to store the garbage. I think I'd come out ahead.
That would be a really stinky place.
This is a great idea. The problem is it's the Amazon boxes. That's where. Listen, I agree with you very much. And if you take a step back and you list the 3, 4, 5 most common activities you have, probably taking kids to school, probably grocery store, probably hospital, probably, whatever those things is, sports, right? All of those are affected deeply and intensely by the city. Let's go shopping. You want a Costco at Hill and 55?
Ooh.
Right? Some people do. I have to drive 25 minutes to get to Costco. That would cut my time to Costco down like that. But a lot of people are like, I don't want a Costco right there. That's crazy.
And why don't they want a Costco right
They don't
there?
want Costco because they don't want traffic.
Yes.
And then you're going to have 55 as a main artery going up to McCall. Like, it would be a nightmare for some people. Other people are like, dude, put an In-N-Out in there too. Get Costco and In-N-Out. You get packed up.
Change my life.
All going up with the RV, like you would have, that would be the busiest Costco, busiest In-N-Out ever. Everybody going up to McCall would stop. Like, it would be lit, right? So functionally, it's like, okay, but you could cut down. Like, if I got to go to Costco once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'd recapture hours of my life in the commute. Like, and it would be so easy to, I'd save money, right? Because it's more expensive to go to, say, Albertsons. So financially, time-wise, boom, just you give me that one Costco that the city will decide, right? It'll figure out if they approve it or not. That would be a huge consideration.
Now, let's talk about this for a second, because truly local government is like the policies that we feel every day.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we feel the state and the feds too, but those local policies are what we like live and feel every day. So if we're talking about the Costco example, like walk through how that is determined. Do you know?
I know some of it.
Okay, yeah. Let's
so
talk
essentially, what would have to happen is that Costco would have to be like, all right, man, I want to do this. Right now, let's say Costco's developing, or they get a developer, whoever it is. They would have to go to the city of Eagle and say, hey, this is what I would like to do. City of Eagle would be like, I mean, do you have like a picture? Like, how do you see this working out? Right. So you'd have to do probably a traffic study, because 55 is upsloping. Right. So it's like, okay, is everybody going to come out on Hill Road? Like, what's the traffic pattern? What are the setbacks? You'd have to do like noise and light studies. I'm sure you have to have feedback, right? Community feedback, open meetings, all of this stuff. You'd also have to figure out like what the revenue source is. I'm sure you would have like robust objections from like huge neighborhood groups and people that really want it. Let's say I would like it.
Yeah.
I'm not showing up to a town hall, but if I don't want it, oh, hell yeah, I'm showing up. That's the motivator. So you'd have to go through this whole design and review process, figuring out like, okay, would this even work? Like, and then once you get down to private property rights, it's like, okay, does it need to be rezoned to accommodate this? Because if it has to be rezoned, then I got you on the hook. There was one city council member who's like, hey man, we shouldn't drive people away from asking for things to be rezoned. We should just get a little bit in return. And so it's like, okay, yes, you have to do this, but then like you have to upgrade a park or something. I don't know what it might be. Yeah. Like, and I don't know all the nuances of that, but yeah, like you have to go through this really robust decision, and what the city council determines then will determine if I save money and time every single day. It would be wild.
Yes, it would be wild.
And that's just one item. Right? If you think about similar things with hospital systems, right? If you think about similar things with, schools, right? The local government is going to determine if they want to bond for, building additional schools or not. If you think about different traffic patterns to accommodate growing school systems, like you think about all of these things, all will be determined. There's a sports park, right? But Eagle's theoretically installing a gigantic sports park. Well, if you're a person who wants to engage in, let's say, soccer, I don't know, like whatever the sports system is, it's like, okay, if you don't do this, my kid will never have the opportunity to actually engage in these sports. We don't have enough facilities for this, which means I'm going to have to find, like I'm going through that right now. I love water polo. My wife loves water polo. My boys love water polo, but we don't really have a commercial pool in well, we flat out don't have it in Eagle. Yeah. There's one, you have the West Boise Y. That's cool, but that pool's like broken right now and has been for like 9 months. So, whether or not the city could make, for instance, an auditorium district and then charge certain hospitality more, whether we have enough tax base for that, all of these things determine whether or not my wife played water polo in college. These decisions will determine if my boys have the opportunity to even develop an interest to play water polo in college, intimately affecting my life.
So you bring up something that's not meant to be like the squirrel moment, but Squirrel. Pools are really interesting because when we moved down here to Eagle, I had a friend who said, are you moving into an HOA? And I was like, yeah, we're moving into an area with an HOA. And she's like, do they have a pool? And I was like, yeah, we actually are. We're getting a pool. And
wild.
yeah, and she just shared that was actually kind of like a rarity, like is a big deal if your community has a pool, because the city doesn't really offer like a city pool. And all of a sudden I was like, there's not a city pool here? Like, and then I came down here and I was like, no, there's not one in Eagle. There's not a city pool in Meridian. There's not a city pool in Boise, I don't think. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, pools kind of are a big deal down here. And like, kind of like what you're describing, the city council could help facilitate those types of things based on like city parks and, Parks and Rec and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, there are people who are running for city council, and I will say on here that one of them is like her family donated land so that a long time ago, Eagle could have a park in a particular area. And I do think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? That's the same one. I'm thinking of that.
Yeah.
Person. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You are 100% right. And that's something else where people, I think one of the problems with people moving in, and especially people taking governance spots, that are not tied to the history or haven't taken the time to understand the history, right? Because it's like, look, man, you're going to run out of like the 5th generation Idahoan eventually. Like we're going to be outnumbered by people like me, the transplant. But like I think the key here is proper assimilation. Like the key is not to gatekeep the history and the culture of Idaho. The key is to share it intensely. And you're only going to do that if you're not like mad at the people moving in. But if you can share it appropriately, and people can orient themselves properly to what the community is, where it has been, where it's going, then that sentiment of community benefit, cohesiveness can grow like a fungus on someone, right? In the absence of that, we will be siloed individuals in our little castles with no obligation or sentiment towards the greater body, and nobody's donated in a park.
Okay, so you lead into something that is really interesting to me, which is, do you find in your conversations with people that the people who are moving in are curious about the place that they've moved to and they want to learn those things? Because I acknowledge that like I am a nerd and I love to learn about the local history and I'm like curious and all that kind of stuff. So I would say that like when I go to Merrill Park, for example, I'll never forget walking over there and Clinton had told me that he had like, there was like one of the egg chicken things down in his area. I don't know, like down in
the Magic Valley.
Down in the Magic Valley area. So he was aware of this. So he's like, hey, this park is really cool. It's got this cool history. So we go there. One of the first times we go there and I see this.
The chicken. Same thing happened to me.
And like, I'm standing there and I'm reading all the plaques. And as I'm sitting there and reading this, I'm like, this is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, they're like factory like burned down and it was this terrible thing and they decided to go somewhere else. And in the process of all of this, they were like, we have this land, so we're going to donate it so that the community can have a park. And in that moment of like sitting there and reading it and looking at this crazy chicken like behind, in this like box and stuff, I was just so touched by a group of people, like a family that cared so much about their community that they wanted to do that thing. But Matt, how do we foster that type of connection within a community to facilitate the sharing of information so that we can have all that stuff? Because I would say that information is right there for people to see. We do have like a city library and we have like a historical place like right here in Eagle, and there's a huge Idaho State History Center, like, in Boise and all those different places. Like, it's not, I don't think that it's being gate kept. I think that there has to be some type of like, how do people learn that stuff? Or how do we help people get curious? Because it's the information's right there for them.
You've seen Schitt's Creek, right?
Yes, I love that show so much.
When David and what's her name, Moira, are making enchiladas. And she's like, you have to fold, and the cheese is like, I don't know what that means. He's like, well, it's obvious. He's like, what are you saying? He's like, fold in the cheese, right?
I don't know how much more clear I can be, David.
So like that, I laugh about that because I actually asked this question of the mayor of Star, and he's not running for anything. But I was like, listen, man, you guys have grown 140% in the last 5 years. They went from 10,000 in 2020 to like 24, 25,000 right now, today, 5 years, right? And
wait, say that number again, because that's mind blowing.
2020, Star Idaho's right around 10,000. 2025, Star Idaho's right around 24, 25,000. So they increased 14 to 15,000 from 10 in 5 years. Whoa. So when you think about that, you're like, okay, how do you share the culture of Star? Because now the people that move there considerably outnumber the people that, even if you take all of the people in Star in 2020 and say like, these are all lifelong Star people, they're outnumbered like 1.4 to 1.
Yes.
Right. And even the people that were there in 2020, they were not lifelong, Star people. I actually got to interview a guy running for city council who signed the incorporation documents to incorporate Star.
Yeah, well, when I was out in Star getting like some document like for one of my kids, I can't remember what it was, but we like went out there because we could. I don't know why now. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But we were out there and I was talking to like their city clerk or something.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about how X number of years ago, this guy drove around the state of Idaho and was going from city to city, like town to town, and getting all these historical documents from these towns because these towns were just gonna get rid of them. And this guy was like, no, we can't get rid of that stuff. So he, compiled it and gave it to like the state or something like that. But in that conversation, which by the way, that like totally blew my mind. And now I feel like I'm that person for Idaho PTA. I'm like, don't get rid of that. I'll take it to the
Stop you right there. Put it in a box.
Totally actually have done that.
Yep.
This guy shared that Star had been like a town or city at like one point, and then the state like wanted to put a road through it and the town didn't want to pay for it. So they unincorporated.
Yeah, they dropped out. They're
yes.
like, forget it.
And so that's why someone who was like young enough for you to meet would have signed those
incorporation documents when they were like, we're getting back in the game, baby. That's totally like, I'm not proud of this, but I got paternal care insurance right as my wife was about to have a kid. Used it, dropped it. So it's literally like, we're a city. Oh, wait, we're going to have to pay for this. I'm out. Yeah. You drop out and then it's like, they finished the highway. Okay, we're incorporated again. So that kind of guy, there aren't that many of them, right? Because Star just wasn't that big. So the point is, I was talking to the mayor about it, and I was like, how do you do this? Because it's a really big concern. I was also meeting with the director of Parks and Rec yesterday. And again, how do we do this? How do we raise generations of ongoing Idahoans, both people that are transplants that moved here like me, that are already adults, and their children, and help them understand the gems that are all around Idaho? Because if you ask me about Lake Berryessa, yeah, man, I grew up water skiing. I learned how to water ski on Lake Berryessa. Like I went there with friends. Like I camped there, like the girl on the dock when I was 16, like the whole bit. I have all the memories.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that it was nothing like that. I'm just saying, like, just take it easy. Okay. But the point is if you were like, we're going to drain Lake Berryessa, I'm like hell you are. At least that's what I would have used to say. Now they can do whatever they want. I don't care.
Sure.
But I don't know what the Lake Berryessa is here. Is it Priest Lake? Is it Cascade? Is it Lucky Peak? Is it like, where is it? And if I don't know, I'm not going to be able to share it with my kids, right? So like we need to transmit this history and we need to integrate people successfully. One problem though, and you're saying there is no gatekeeping, not entirely true.
Ooh.
Because people that know where those spots are, they don't want anyone else there. And from a Parks and Rec standpoint, that's a real problem. Because they're like, dude, we're revamping all of this stuff. They're like, shut up about it. And whenever I post something that has to do with a state park, people are like, well, it was good. It's done now. Like they get so mad.
Yeah.
So there is a degree of cultural gatekeeping and knowledge gatekeeping in some areas.
For places,
let's say
right,
parks
yeah.
and rec,
Okay,
right?
for places, yeah.
And also locations. I made a clip about yellow pine, which is on the way to the Stibnite mine, which I visited a few weeks back. People were like, it was good. Now you're telling everyone and you're going to and by the way, they're not wrong. They're like 50 full-time residents in Yellow Pine. Every year though, there's a harmonica festival. So it swells up to like 4,000 or 5,000 for like a week. Yeah. Wild,
It's
right?
a real thing.
It's a real thing. But they're like, you just told everyone it's going to be 10,000. The whole thing is going to get shut down. Just like something's going to, I was like, oh, so there is a degree of like, stop telling people. However, with the Star example, Mayor Chadwick is like, listen, man, the number of events that we hold for folding in the cheese are profound. They have the all of these like concerts, they have all these events, they have teen camps. Again, Mark Twain, right? Educate and integrate young people to grapple with this thing. Where you have kids that were born here and kids that weren't born here getting together, becoming friends with each other, transmission at all levels. You have the like parents' night out where like the parents can go down and see a concert and get food and drop the kids off at this one. So you have community. You have this intentional plan. Doesn't take a lot from a financial standpoint. What it takes is planning and a community that's like, let's do this. Like, come on, like, come with me. Like, let's engage in this. And you see that in Caldwell, right? The number, Indian Creek Plaza.
Love that place.
They were like, okay, to make this work, we're going to need 280 events a year. 280 events. Now, some of those events could just be a live band, right? So it's like, okay, like on every Tuesday, get another live band. You know, and then every, 4 days of the summer, right, have events on Saturday, Sunday, and then have camps coming through. Like they're putting together, patching together these different things, but that hub creates a folding in of the cheese where you integrate and assimilate and properly orient people.
I'm just telling you, I'm loving this analogy, actually. Folding in the cheese.
I could not be more clear, David.
I love it. But one of the things, like, in terms of like folding in the cheese, now this is going to be
that better be the name of this episode, Folding in the Cheese.
So good. So good. Is that there has to be, in order to like maintain.
I talk way too much on your podcast.
It's okay.
You have me on and I just start going.
I'm
like, folding cheese is Moira.
I love it. I love it. So one of the things though, just in terms of like folding in the cheese and making all of these things happen is I think about like, the active participation that has to occur from citizens to maintain this democracy that we have. In order to maintain good cities and counties and roads and states, people have to participate. And so, yes, I know, like I've been one of those people on an organization level that has said, we're going to organize this thing. We're going to do this thing. We have to actually have people show up for that stuff. Right. So, and I think, the COVID experiences, I think there have been people who have worked very, very hard to get people back outside to participate in this community. But one of the things that I was thinking about, I want to talk about two more things before we end the conversation. One, we have talked about, citizen participation and, inviting the teenagers in. But I was really thinking in terms of like an education level, like, and what we require kids to learn. And I know that there is a civics test in Idaho that kids have to take before they can graduate. Like my senior just recently took that civics test. But I was like, okay, well, in third grade, they learn about community, like what it means to be in a community and who's a part of a community, like some of these roles. And in fourth grade, they learn about state history, so Idaho history in fourth grade. But then I was like, okay, like in high school, though, they're taking English and history and it's American history and it's U.S. history and it's, they're taking like, like geography or something. And like but they're not actually taking a local government state history or like local government civics class where they're dissecting,
they're outlining this stuff,
where they're outlining all this stuff. So like when I say, gosh, I really don't understand that much about city governance, it's because I haven't picked it up anywhere in a required setting. So now as an adult, it requires curiosity to learn about it. But that was actually something that I was like, why aren't we doing that in high school for kids? Because Yeah, there are some classes where they, like, I'm pretty sure it's like American government, where I know like the Middleton School District, they require their high schoolers who are taking American government to go sit in a city, like council meeting, like city council or school board meeting. Like they have to go and sit and watch and listen. But like and I could be wrong, like maybe in American government, they do have a whole section on, local stuff, but I don't think so. And so that's actually a place where I think that there can be an improvement, so we can create this better bridge, like not just for kids who have lived here their whole lives, but for kids who are moving in and coming to high school. And it's like, what a great way to learn about your community in terms of understanding the structure of like the city. And it doesn't have to be like who the main players are, but like city, county, state, and the governance on that level. I feel like we spend so much time on governance on a federal level, but conversations that you and I have had, I just know that like over the years, it's been like, Alexis, I hear you talking about federal stuff, but it's like the state stuff that impacts us on a regular basis. And it's like, yeah, I hear you. And then even more so like on the city and the county stuff, like, but we're not, I don't think that that's being broken down in a way that like is like where it's application and seeing it right in front of their faces.
Yes to everything you just said. 1,000% yes. And if I may add in the other age range, the opposite end of the spectrum, specifically to Idaho. If you consider a place like Eagle is not a place where a lot of young families move. Eagle is a place where retirees move. Now, these are not retirees from like Marsing moving to Eagle. These are retirees from out of state that can afford Eagle. So hang with me. What voter blocks always have time to go vote? Older people.
Yes.
And when you're dealing with a population of people that are transient retirees, they do not understand the state they've moved to, but they also have the time to go vote. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, you have these mass populations of people that are going to vote for laws that will affect the people that have been there forever because they have time to do it, but they weren't from here. Like they're not. So now they're voting for there's a perfect example in Star right now. There's a gentleman who is retired, firefighter from another state, who goes to every firefighter meeting and is like, I will never vote for a fire levy or bond. And they're like, what? And the people that talk to him, because I've heard this multiple times, he's like, when I was a firefighter in my former state, they being the city, because this gentleman worked for a fire department that was run by the city would always run tax increases and get people to jump on board for the fire department. But then once the money came in, it really just went into the general fund. And then the city did whatever. And so the needs of the firemen never got met. And the funding for the city just increased. And he had to deal with this his whole career. So he's just festering. It's just, ugh. So he gets up here, has time to vote, has enough money to move in the area, and now is voting down fire bonds and levies, which people can do fine. Yeah. But for this reason, it's pretty ridiculous because we have a fire district. The city that he lives in doesn't even have a fire department. It has a fire district. None of the money ever collected for the fire district could possibly go to the city. So you have the undereducation of our youth as they come into their adulthood. Yes, I agree. And on a local level. But then you have the hyper politically active older people that have moved here because they're the only ones that can afford to retire here because it's really expensive here. And then they drive up the cost of everything and then they go vote without knowing about that. So we have both a problem of education on the younger level and the older level.
Yes. So the last thing then is, and this is like, I don't know. I know I get it's like a hot topic a bit. There's kind of two hot topics in here.
The border. Okay.
No. No, we're not talking about the border.
I would die if you said that. That'd be so
funny. What is true is that like talking about democracy and voting and local city government is not flashy. It doesn't get all the hits and likes on social media. I would know because myself.
It's okay. A tough one.
It's a tough one, you know. But I do think that there is like some level of a responsibility in terms of like, okay, well, what is the entity right now, like besides like local and city government that could be helping to educate the public in an engaging way? not a way that's like boring, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to sit in this old history lesson, but like an engaging way. And for me, I think about like what type of role does journalism like play in this part when we're talking about like local government, particularly even when we're talking about elections. And so I wanted to ask you about that, because to me, I think those two things are actually tied together when we're talking about democracy and we're talking about local government.
So like journalism at its core is just trying to transmit information, right? And the mechanism of journalism classically has been written journalism, where it's like, okay, we're going to write something. I'm going to go do the work. I'm going to do the footwork. I'm going to figure out what I determine to be real and not real. And I'm going to figure out what details are relevant or irrelevant. And then I'm going to compile all that with, these people and then put this information out. It's like, okay, that's fine. I think we have many problems involved in that, because unless you're in Harry Potter, when you're looking at a newspaper, everything's static and it doesn't move.
Oh my gosh,
right?
I would so love to have a Harry Potter
like a newspaper where the pictures are dancing and stuff and they're like waving at you and everything, be lit, right? Yeah, it's called a tablet. Like, just scroll through. And by the way, it's annoying because they always have pop-up ads, because then the people waving would be like, buy the mattress here. Anyway, so like you have this problem of once you taste sugar, there's no going back. Now you can moderate your sugar consumption, but you ain't forgetting how that chocolate tasted. And I think that's kind of our consumption preferences. Once you get hooked into, Facebook or Instagram or other media mechanisms, you look at a newspaper, you're like, there's nothing moving. And then when you're like, eyes aren't working, you try to double tap on the paper and you're like, oh wait, it doesn't work. I actually just have to bring it closer, right? So we have this need for information transmission, but then we also have this changing consumption preference of individuals. So they're like, well, I want something with sugar in it. Like, this is not even moving. And then you layer onto that, I think, a very well-earned distrust of the inherent filtration that is news media and journalism. I think there have been news outlets that largely national news outlets that have absolutely worked every single day to decrease the trust the general populace has. Now, when you come down to a really local level, like Boise Dev, I think Margaret Carmel, the journalist for the Boise Dev, is fantastic. And she goes as far and as effectively as anyone I've ever seen to like really lay everything out. And like, you can always argue somebody's biased, but like, dang, man, Margaret Carmel does a really, really good job.
I mean, I will tell you that like when we lived in Lewiston, the Lewiston Tribune was like one of my favorite things.
There you go.
I felt like they did such a good job. Again, people could argue against that, but really laying out like what's going on in the community.
Yes.
So you could be aware of it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So you have more localized hubs that are trying their best to bring, unbiased information, just provide you information. But the sentiment culturally is like news media is biased. Mm-hmm. And that's not inaccurate, right? Like we have a lot of national, and they're chasing this corporate profit model that's also chasing the people that have no overhead that are on social media putting out the news for themselves, like all of these things. So it's like, it's this whole big problem. So yeah, I think it is important. Like at the core of it, we need somebody who's going to transmit information, how it's transmitted. Okay. Whether I'm a filter or I invite, like Margaret Carmel did candidate articles. I did candidate interviews. Mm-hmm. So if you want to read Margaret Carmel's thing, you can read it and you will hear what Margaret has to say about person X, Y, or Z.
Right.
If you want to hear from that candidate, you come to my interview. Yeah. Now, it takes more time, right? It might 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But you will literally sit down with that person through me and experience it. So we're getting information out. What kind of it? Do you want filtered? Do you want distilled? Do you want want the long format? It's all part of it. Right. But we need sources that we can trust one way or another. And I get the benefit of inherent trust because there's nothing in between you and the person I'm interviewing.
Right.
It's a heavier lift to have a journalist where it's like, no, I promise you, I gave you all the relevant information. And it's like, you need a layer of trust there. So again, at its core, we need information transmission.
Yes. And one of the information transmissions that I have actually like received from the Ranch podcast is I just on social media, actually, when you pulled the clip out of the gal and you you were talking about elections. Now, I grew up being able to, like, at some point there was just like a mail-in ballot. Like a lot of people did that when I lived in Oregon. Like, so I grew up in Oregon, and then we were back in Oregon for some residency training for Clinton for medical stuff. And we would get the ballot in the mail, and it was nice because I had like little kids. And so like going to like was tough. And so I'd get the ballot in the mail, and then I'd go drop it off like in one of the official ballot places. And I actually loved that. Like that was like fun. But over the years, I've heard different things about, like mail-in ballots or electronic things and different stuff. And this clip that I heard on your social media page just said like, she said, at least this is what I heard her say, was that she's like, when we're talking about paper ballots versus like talking about like electronic counting, she's like, it's it's like safer with electronic counting. Those were her, like, that was the message that I heard from her. And I was like, oh, that's so fascinating. And, as I'm like thinking about it in my brain, I'm like, yeah, that actually kind of makes sense or whatever. So
you want your accountant to use a calculator or just do it all in his head? Mm-hmm. Slide ruler style.
Yeah. Like I thought that it was really interesting. But the reason I bring that up is because like when I'm thinking about like civic participation and democracy and all those different types of things, democracy from my perspective isn't going to be guaranteed from the top down. It has to be fostered from the bottom up. Like we, the people, have to participate. And we do that through voting, through educating ourselves, right? Through understanding like how our local city governments work.
Let me give you a piece that's going to blow your mind.
Okay, can't wait.
Undocumented citizens. Not undocumented illegal. Undocumented U.S. citizens. How could that be? Apparently, if, my wife and I move here and we have a green card and we have a kid, we already had the kid when we moved here, and we become naturalized citizens, I believe that our kid automatically becomes a U.S. citizen. Mm-hmm. But he's undocumented in that he doesn't have a birth certificate, and it's like this confusing thing. So the Secretary of State actually identified as like several dozen people. He's like, these could be people that voted illegally. And then they had to start distilling down through who it was, why it was. And he did find, like just over a dozen people that they are prosecuting, but there were other people that were like undocumented citizens. So there are these loopholes and really complex nuances where it's like, hang on, man. There's a reason this is so complex and involved. And in the absence of simple answers, people always go like, this is unnecessarily complex. It's like, no, maybe it's appropriately complex when you take into account all the different factors, but you will only get to that point of appropriately complex if you have the education that leads you to like, oh, there are a lot of nuanced situations where like, okay, well, thank God we have somebody paying attention to all this, right? But I couldn't agree with you more. Mm-hmm. We need civic participation where people come to the table saying like, hey, why is it like this? What is going on? Like, why would you do it that way? Why don't you just do it this way? And the gal who you were talking about, Christina Glasscock, Twin Falls County Clerk, she's like, listen, I've been in the all paper election world and I've been in the electronic world. And I'm telling you right now, electronic is infinitely better. 2010. You had people that whatever taxing district could make their election for whatever ballot whenever they wanted. You have 12 different taxing districts. You could have 12 different elections, where you vote on a bond or whatever, whenever you want. They had paper polling books. So they'd have to like punch these like books where they like set and like put them manually together. And by the way, that polling book might say that like you're an absentee voter, you're an in-person voter, your address is such, you're a citizen, you're alive, you're dead, whatever it is. The second that thing was done, it was out of date because like somebody died or somebody moved or all of these different things. She's like, there are all of these complications, and it's very easy for grifters or naysayers to be like, just go back to the way it was once. That's better. And it's like, you know what, man? It's actually not. If you take 30 seconds and you start talking to somebody who understands this stuff. Now, unfortunately, not everybody can go talk to Christina Glasscock. Right? It would be wonderful if they could. Not everybody can talk to Secretary of State. So to your question, education, what I am trying to do is offer an opportunity where you can sit down with the Secretary of State. You can sit down with Christina Glasscock. You can sit down and be like, whoa, that's way more complex than I thought. And you can do it without going anywhere or traveling. You can do it whenever you want. It's right there on your phone. We already know you're on your phone. That's it. And it's free. You don't even have to buy a paper, man. And you never have to worry about if their commentary has been doctored or manipulated, or if I'm some like liberal or left-leaning, whatever. It's like, no, man, just listen to whatever the Secretary of State has to say.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing. I totally love it. And I probably more so than like ever in my entire life have been more aware of like who is running for all these different spots. And the guy that I see the most, he keeps popping up on my page because I slow down, is like the guy who's running in the Nampa mayor race. And
it's a debacle.
Oh my gosh. And I cannot, like, voting day's coming up, and I'm really interested to see who wins. Like, I'm curious. Like,
How funny. Mm-hmm. Here's a guy. We don't even live in Nampa. Nampa.
Yeah.
And here's a dude who just took a cue from what everyone already knew, which is if you want to reach the people, they're on social media. And he's doing funny videos in a roller rink. He's doing a video in front of a Chinese food place. He did my show. Like, he understands how to reach people, which we all knew was the case.
Yes.
And he's just doing it.
Yeah.
And here he's popping. You're not even a Nampa resident. No. You sent me his videos like, look, you did another one. Yeah. And I put out a post, and somebody, like, people instantly email me like, debacle. What's a debacle?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, hey, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Yeah. This was really interesting to me. I learned a lot of stuff from you. And if anyone found that something was wrong that we said, hey, that's fine with me. Send me a message, and I'm happy to learn from you.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it at all.
Matt doesn't want to hear about it, but I do. So
I've been talking to people all day. I had an episode on Chernobyl, on Middleton Public Works. I had an episode on Middleton City Council. I'm done.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
done, so.
God bless you then for coming on my show and having this conversation.
Best hour of my day.
It was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Purple Zone. Thanks for being here. If you liked what you heard, leave a review on your fave podcast app or on YouTube. And from me to you, the heart of The Purple Zone says community is where policy comes to life.